there! I have a confession to make. You know the school fire drills that we all used to have, but the alarms were like super duper duper loud, like... Yeah, so when I was in middle school, I used to have to be sent to the frickin' principal's office before the fire drills at our school. How pathetic is that? I know, I can't believe I'm telling the world this, but it really was a thing. I was that afraid of being jump scared by those ear-raping things. So if you got the memo, my personal bias is I absolutely hate jump scares. But in this video, I'm gonna be making a point as to why I just don't think they work as a movie genre, and I really just think every jump scare movie that's ever been made is just not a good quality movie. So if you like the sound of that, make sure you hit the like button on this video and subscribe, because this is Jerry's Film Talks. We talk about, you guessed it, film. And sometimes TV, mostly TV, but okay, film. No, but like for real, I used to be so terrified of those alarms, and I don't know, I would jump out of my seat. It was a problem, I get it, but that's exactly how I am at jump scare movies. The only jump scare movie that I have seen in theaters was The Conjuring. I think it was called The Conjuring. It was one of those movies like that. There was like this random scene of some woman on like top of a dresser. I shit you not, I literally walked right out of the theater after that. I was like, fuck this, I am done. It was a sight to see. If you were there, it must have been hilarious. I have a problem with two things. I have a problem with spiders. I have a problem with jump scares. Don't put any of those things near me. We're gonna have a good day. My hatred towards them is not the purpose, as I mentioned. I really want to talk about how jump scare movies do not add any quality to the actual movie, and instead make a scary movie look cheap. Though I do completely recognize that jump scare films are kind of like their own subset genre of horror films. I recognize that, but have you ever actually seen like a good one? If you answer yes, I don't know what's wrong with you. No, I'm just joking. Let's be respectful. I get it, but whatever. Seriously, I don't see it, okay? You want to prove your point? Prove it in the comments. I'm curious to know what you have to say. I just don't know how anyone could find them enjoyable. Do you like having heart attacks? I don't. I don't know about you, but whatever. The point I'm trying to make, though, is most likely a jump scare is indicative of a bad film. Now, off the top of my head, I can't think of the running list of movies. The only one that really comes to mind right now as I'm recording is like The Conjuring and those movies, and I know there's a million others, but okay, scary movies do not need to have those to make it a scary movie. When I think about that, there's a couple examples of that come to mind. The first one, the biggest one to me, being the Blair Witch Project, which we're going to come back to in a moment. And then the other example of this that I especially want to talk about in this video is The Shining. These are both examples of truly terrifying, like some of the most scary movies I've ever seen that don't rely on that random sound of silence, just filled by the loudest sound you've ever heard and someone screaming or something like that. No, it doesn't need any of that because that's not genuine fear. I mean, I guess, is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. I guess that defeats the whole purpose of this video. All right, it's done. See you guys. Have a good day. I kid. Obviously, we're going to keep going, but it actually is like, But let's start with the Blair Witch Project, okay? There are scenes in the Blair Witch Project that are absolutely horrifying. One of those that comes to mind is when they're all in the tent, it's nighttime, and out of nowhere, the tent just starts violently shaking. That did not need dead silence, then a loud boom sound just for it to happen. It happened naturally, and it was scarier than what would have happened if you added those sound effects. And it adds that level of scariness because when you're in that real life scenario, then you have the kind of jump scare moment, but you're not in it. You're watching this on a screen. You're watching a movie version of it, and you're watching these people go through the fear, and that alone is terrifying, especially in a movie like The Blair Witch Project, where it's you're kind of following these people. You don't know if it's a real story or not, and I know they marketed it like this was a real story, even though it wasn't. But when you're watching a scene like that on TV, it is visceral. It is truly engaging in the moment because you're there with them, you're watching them, and it's just scary. And yes, your heart drops with them, but you don't need those added sound effects to do it. That is a jump scare done right, in my opinion. Did that make any sense? I'm just going to preface it this way. I think the point I'm trying to make in this video is not easily conveyed, so I'm going to be relying a lot on the you know what I mean sort of thing. Should I have prepared more for it? Yeah. If you have a problem with it, don't watch this video then. It's really simple. And even with it actually being like a natural jump scare, it doesn't come across as a jump scare because it's really not. It's just a startling moment in a story. That's how they're supposed to be done. When you're making a good film and you're an actually talented director, filmmaker, all of that sort of stuff, you don't need to rely on those things. But majority of the jump scare films are low quality, B-tier movies, so they need to add that level. Now that being said, like I mentioned, they are an experience for sure. I don't know who would be interested in that. It's kind of like the idea of someone jumping out of a plane. You know what I mean? Like some people get adrenaline off of that. I'm sure some people get a thrill off of jump scare movies. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do in your personal life, but I guess that someone exists, and that's probably who these movies are catered to. I don't know. Another scene that does this really well in the Blair Witch Project is the ending. There's only a few standout moments that are like scary in the Blair Witch Project, truly like scary moments. And I'm talking about in this one, I'm talking about the ending. Now, while not technically a jump scare, so it's not as easy to compare, this one did have an element of surprise in it that kind of made your heart sink a little bit. But again, there was no boom sound effects. There was no silent cuts to it, just loud jump. It was just normal. And it was scary as all hell. And if I was in that real life scenario, even though this wasn't real life, but if I was in that real life scenario, my heart would drop like a jump scare. You know what I mean? But there was no boom. You don't need the boom to do that. This isn't a fire drill at a school. Now, the Blair Witch Project is an example of something you're watching that is really real. But what about something that isn't really real? Yeah, that's where The Shining comes into play, because there's a lot of moments in that movie that could have easily been a jump scare, but they were just a regular scare, and they worked so well. One of the most iconic scenes that comes to mind in that movie that is similar to something like this is when Wendy is walking up the staircase towards the end of the film before the "Here's Johnny" scene. She's walking up the stairwell and she looks over into one of the rooms, and there is a man in a bear costume giving noggin to someone who is on the bed, and they do a quick zoom into it. That is like the 1970s version of a jump scare, but it worked so well, and they didn't have a boom for it. They zoomed in like a jump scare cut, but it conveyed this horrifying sense of uncanniness. And that is a scare, jump scare, whatever you want to call it, done right. And even the ending where Jack is found frozen. When I was a kid, that actually used to scare me like a jump scare. But as I've gotten older and, I've seen it more and more, I realized that's not at all what they were going for. But that was even a, I guess, jump scare, a Stanley Kubrick jump scare, if you will, done better than what we see in modern day movies. And yes, I know I'm coming a little unhinged. I do not have examples on the alternative. Like, I don't have bad jump scares because I don't want them in the video while I'm editing. And I also did not care to research jump scare movies, if I'm being completely honest with you. But you get the point. But all of that being said, I still recognize that kind of film is technically a subset of horror. Like, there's gross out horror films, there's psychological horror, there's jump scare horror, and things like that. The list goes on, and I get that this is an experience to be had, totally separate from something like The Shining, which is a totally different genre of horror. But most that are released in that genre are really bad. Of course, there's a couple standout films when you talk about jump scares, like The Conjuring, which obviously that's the only one I've brought up in this video. But even those I would never put on the same tier list as Shawshank Redemption, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think I've run out of things to say. I just wanted to put this in video form because I hate jump scare movies. It is my bias, but simultaneously, they do suck. Maybe I just haven't seen a good one. If you know a good one, I want to hear about it in the comments down below. And I also want to know what you think about jump scare movies. Do you hate them as much as me, or do you genuinely find them fun to watch? Are you one of those psychopaths who enjoys them for the experience? Just joking, you're not a psychopath. I get it. Some people are totally cool with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I just, I hate jump scares. But I want to know if there is one worthy of watching that isn't overwhelmingly crazy. I do want to see it. If it's The Conjuring, I am going to give you the middle finger in the comments. But if it's anything else that is a little more mild, cool with me. Cool with me. I don't care. Just don't have me walk out of the theater again, and don't bring me to the principal's office before a fire drill. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for that. I really hope I'm not alone with the whole principal's office thing. I bet you there's like one other person out there in the United States of America that's done that. But all in all, I know this was a random spewing of gibberish in this video. I didn't have a clear point, but I think you're picking up, if you're here right now, you're picking up what I'm putting down. You're shooting what I'm loading, if I will. But I don't know, that's the video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a like rating and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with all things I talk about. I typically talk about TV. I don't talk about film as much on this channel, but I'm excited to see you there. And with that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.